I'm Kirsten.
I'm Doug.
And we're here with a special look at another YouTuber by the name Judgmental Critter, who has done a series of videos on RWBY. We're going to be looking at her series on RWBY villains. And we do a lot of RWBY discussions ourselves. We have a lot of opinions about some of the villains. We like some of them, dislike others.
Yeah.
So we're curious to see what somebody else thinks of the RWBY villains. So we're going to watch this series here. This is the first one, Adam and the White Fang.
Okay.
So we're going to go through, see what Judgmental Critter has to say about this, and then go from there and see if we agree. All right, guys?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
RWBY has had a huge and colorful cast of heroes and side characters, and of course, the villains. RWBY has had an impressive rogues gallery of a whopping 10 characters, and that doesn't even include some of the smaller roles. But bigger isn't always better, and in RWBY's case, the cast could definitely do with some trimming. Which isn't good. With such a huge villainous cast, they should be a force to reckon with. They should be the main threat our heroes have to face, but unfortunately, they all leave a lot to be desired. But why are they so disappointing? How exactly did these antagonists go so wrong? Well, that's what I'm gonna figure out. However, since there's just so damn many of them, it would be impractical to try to look at them all right now, so follow me along this exciting journey to find out what makes RWBY's villains so bad.
That's an awfully blanket statement there.
Adam has the honor of being the first ever villain introduced in the series. He was also the first character introduced to us who wasn't one of the four main girls, and he was the first character to actually get a speaking role. That's a lot of firsts, and he immediately had us all hyped. Who was this awesome ninja dude our new black-haired friend was hanging out with? The Black trailer features Adam just as prominently as it does Blake, almost more so. True to her nature, Blake is quiet and never really takes the lead. Adam is the main driving force of their operation. Blake's passive nature meant that Adam gets to be in the spotlight, so we really get more on his character than we do Blake's. He even got the big glamour shot of the trailer with his moon slice, and we were all so excited to see more. Who is he? What's his relationship with Blake? We wanted to see more of him, and his rifle katana, and then we didn't. Throughout Volume 1, we were able to put two and two together, figuring out Adam has something to do with Blake's sordid past with the White Fang, but that's about it. Despite being such a prominent figure in the Black trailer and getting everyone hyped to see more of him, he doesn't show up in the show proper until the last episode of Volume 2. We got nothing to add to his character throughout all that time, except for Blake sort of subtly mentioning him here and there, but she doesn't really tell us anything about him we didn't already know. Then, after he finally does show up at the end of Volume 2, he fucking disappears again, only showing up for minor appearances in Cinder's Backflash, then finally entering the story proper during the Fall of Beacon, which was again at the end of that volume. It's so baffling the way they've handled Adam. They set him up so well, yet they just don't do anything with him. We get no new info on his character or his motives or anything. The most we get is the answer as to why he's helping Cinder. She threatened him to do so. Nothing else. He's just as much of a question mark as he was in the Black trailer. However, finally, in Volume 3, he arrives on scene like the fucking Shakespeare villain he is. He gets a brief scene with Blake and Yang, and suddenly, I was interested again. When Blake left him, it did a lot more to him than we thought. Adam's not just a terrorist, he's a psychopath. He's crazed, he's ruthless, he's an abusive cock who's clearly mentally damaged by Blake's betrayal. He hits Blake and is menacing, he cuts off Yang's arm! He dealt the most damage than anyone has to our four main girls, and he did it effortlessly. The wait seemed to be worth it. Despite his absence in the show so far, I was intrigued. He's the most threatening presence our heroes have had to face, and he's got a gigantic vendetta against two of our main girls. What'll happen next with his character? Well, apparently fucking nothing. Once again, Adam just disappears from the fucking show. His only appearance throughout all of Volume 4 is a brief PTSD nightmare from Yang. Why do they keep doing this? Adam is arguably the most well-constructed villain in the show. He's a threat. He has a past with one of our main characters. He's specifically hunting her down. They've put together all the building blocks for Adam to be a really interesting character and a threat for our heroes, but then they just don't ever do anything with him. Adam's biggest flaw as a villain is that he's never on screen despite the fact he's in the White Fang, who has been the girls' biggest opposing force throughout the early volumes. Team RWBY are constantly mowing through hordes of White Fang soldiers, but Adam never shows up. We see Torchwick talking to White Fang members. Why wasn't Adam ever present during those meetings? While I'm on the White Fang, I'm going to take a break from Adam to focus on some of the other prominent figures of their ranks. Like the Lieutenant. Remember him? Well, neither do the writers. He makes his debut in Volume 2, and that was the end. He's there with Adam and Cinder's backstory, but that's it? Why? What was the point of him? So Weiss had someone to fight on the train? He mentions hating the Schnees, but that's all the character we get out of him. It's so confusing to have a whole big setup for his character to just suddenly and quietly drop him from the show. Did he die on the train? I guess, because he's not at the attack on Beacon. It's a shame, because he could have been a really interesting character. Adam's new second-in-command after Blake left, one who's devoutly loyal and has a grudge against Weiss. But instead he just vanishes for no reason, despite having an epic setup on the train. Kinda like Adam, huh? The only other members of the White Fang worth mentioning are the Albane brothers, a couple of weird, sneaky dudes who do nothing but monologue about shit no one cares about. Seriously, they show up in Volume 4, and they have one conversation with Gira, and then just leave. Their next appearance puts them in the line of fire against Gira, where one gets arrested and the other dies. Fennec and Corsic Albane have literally no character. Even though Adam and the Lieutenant had minimal screen time, this all gave us at least an idea of what their characters might be. The Albane brothers just give us nothing. They're emotionless and kind of monk-like, but that's not enough to go on. Despite being on screen so much, they're out Volumes 4 and 5, they're nothing. I don't know what they are, and I don't care, because now they're gone. Why were they in the White Fang? Why are they okay with killing people like Gira? Anything? No? Worst of all, you can't even tell them apart. Not because they look similar, but because their characters are the same. There's no difference between them. So now that one is dead, there doesn't really seem to be anything different. It didn't matter which one died, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. I honestly don't even know if Corsic will ever come back into the show now that he's been arrested. Their only purpose seemed to be that Blake needed someone to beat while at Menagerie. But they already had Illya for that. Oh yeah, Illya. Honestly, she might be the best developed villain in the whole series. Well, ex-villain. I get the feeling they only gave her so much character development because they knew she was going to join the good guys. She's in the White Fang, but she understands it's not really the most peaceful solution. She's afraid and angry because of her parents' death, and violence seems to be the only thing that gets the Faunus what they want. She resents Blake for betraying the White Fang, but can't get over her love for her either. She's racked with conflict, towing the line between understanding Blake's mentality and hating her for it too. Honestly, everything Adam should have been. Illya's character oddly echoes Adam, but she gets forgiven and gets to join the good guy's side, because she's an adorable rainbow girl. It's such a shame, really. Though I have no problems with Illya joining the good guys, I just wish any of the other villains got half as much development as she did. I understand every complicated mental state of her character, and why she chooses to do wicked things despite knowing the consequences of her actions. She was only present during Volumes 4 and 5, but they wrote her character so well that she became so complex and creative for a villain. Seemingly all just for her to join the good guy side, leaving the rest of the villains to be boring and underdeveloped. It's not just Adam that got shafted. All of the White Fang, for some reason, get no screen time to develop, despite the fact that they have a really intriguing concept: racial radicalism. Racism is a fascinating concept for any fantasy setting, and a group of racist terrorists being a primary villain is a really interesting concept. Blake and Adam have two similar, but opposing ideals on the racism they've suffered through. Blake wants for equality, Adam wants to make the humans suffer. But that seems to be the end of it. They never talk about the racism they've suffered through, they just talk about how much they don't like humans, so the racism aspect feels lost amidst the plot. The White Fang didn't barrel a train into Vale because they wanted to send a message to humanity, they did it because Torchwick told them to. I get it, racism is a touchy subject, but the White Fang never really do anything that relates to their racist pasts. They just seem like a big horde of lackeys for Cinder's faction. Finally, in Volume 5, we see Adam attach bombs to Haven, but why though? I know Cinder threatened him to help with their plans, but he doesn't even try to help anyone in the auditorium or anything. He just dicks around outside until Blake shows up, and suddenly, everything about his character that made him interesting is gone. Where he was once cool yet crazy, suave yet ruthless, suddenly he's just a 6th grade theater student who thinks he's hot shit. Adam insists on snarking and being condescending, despite the fact that Blake isn't fazed by him at all. All Adam does is monologue tropey villain things, and Blake bitch slaps him and sends him running away. Fucking what? The same guy who smacks Blake around and severed Yang's arm clean in half just runs off without barely even swinging his sword around? Who is this coward, and where did the threatening obsessive ex-boyfriend go? In only one scene they turn Adam's character into a joke, and I could not even pretend to take him seriously afterwards. All his amazing feats seem to just be a facade, hiding the fact that he's just a whiny little teenager who thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. And, as you know, Volume 6 saw him return, back to being a haunting nightmare to Yang and a manic killer who's obsessed with hunting down Blake. But it's too little, too late. They fumbled so hard with his character up until this point that I just don't care about him anymore. He's not in the show enough to help give his character depth, and when he did show up, he was a joke. They can do nothing to his character to make me find him unique or threatening, because they fucked up his character so much that I doubt they could do anything to fix him. Volume 6 has him being a following threat for Blake and Yang before he really shows up to hurt or even kill Blake for leaving him so long ago. And his fight that ensues against her and Yang is exciting, but like I said, I just don't care anymore. I don't take his character seriously, and honestly his dialogue doesn't help. Adam insists on fucking saying some dumb insult or smarmy remark before he does anything during their fight. Adam never shuts the fuck up, and it makes him sound like a Disney villain or something.
But you're selfish! You're a coward! Moment of truth, Yang. Do you think you're faster than you were at Beacon? Your aura's bound to be running low. Hit me already! What does she even see in you? Or just a coward like her?
Team Rocket does crap like this, and they're not the most threatening people. And ultimately, he dies in the end. Seemingly, some people theorize otherwise, but regardless, it seems our heroines have finally gotten him out of their lives, and we never once developed his character. Adam only ever had two settings: I want to kill humans, and I want to hurt Blake. We never learned anything about him. Why is he in the White Fang? The SDC scar on his face, standing for Schnee Dust Company, hints at a story about his abuse while working in the mines, but we never even learned about the scar until one episode before his demise. We never saw how he and Blake started dating, how he was a nice, loving man before he became the violent killer he becomes. Hell, we didn't even see the events that made him that way. We only see him as a crazy radicalist, then he dies. The closest we ever get was that Adam character short before Volume 6. However, it really doesn't tell us more than we already knew. It doesn't show his prior relationships with Blake or Illya. It doesn't show how his character changed to be so brutal. The most it shows us is some flashy fighting animations and Adam's first taste of bloodlust, but then we jump over all the parts about his past that people wanted to know more about. I don't care about his time with Gira, or why Sienna trusted him so much. For the first time, they're actually putting the spotlight onto Adam and his character, but they just tell us the same shit we already knew. The White Fang is a huge letdown as far as antagonists go. Despite a really good and intriguing setup, the whole group of them fall flat when it comes to execution, and honestly, with Adam's death, I think this is going to be a good thing. The problem with the White Fang is that their issues don't really match the plans of the rest of the villains. Salem's crew is trying to hunt down the relics, but I doubt Adam would even care if he even saw a relic. The entirety of the White Fang is so disconnected from the real plot of the show, and in turn it makes Blake disconnected from the series as well. Adam's conflict is only focused on Blake and Yang, to the point where if Ruby and Adam saw each other on the street, I doubt they would even realize who each other was. The White Fang plays a major role in Blake's character, but it's become a detriment for her because now it's disconnected her from the true plot of the show. After the fall of Beacon, Blake has been hiding away at Menagerie and has in turn missed out on large plot points with the rest of the cast. While Ranger learned about Salem and the two brothers, Blake was still dealing with the same old White Fang issues. Yang and Weiss learned about maidens and relics, but Blake is still just dealing with Adam. Even now that Blake has finally joined her team again, she still just doesn't seem like a part of the plot. Everyone's talking about Ozpin, and magic, and gods, but Blake's struggle still ends up with Adam again. And you know what? I'm glad he's dead. I'm glad that they were able to really stop him because I think it's going to be for the better. Now that Adam's finally gone, it means two things can come of it. Hopefully, Blake can finally get truly involved in the story proper and not feel like a bystander of the plot. Now she can grow with her team in their attempts to stop Salem, and hopefully she can grow as a character now that the burden of Adam is no longer lurking around the corner. And also, if the White Fang does stick around, like how I assume they will, it can mean some of the other members can really get some development that they deserve. Ultimately, the biggest issue with Adam and the White Fang is their confusing absence, both from the plot and their characters in general. The White Fang is a tangled mess of disconnected plot points and characters that never get the screen time they need. It's a perfect example of having a really good premise and setup, but just a failure of execution. It's a shame that the White Fang member with the best characterization and development only seemed to get that sort of writing because she was destined to become a good guy. Because, as we'll see, there's really only one other villain in the series who gets that kind of development, and it feels like it might be for similar reasons, but that's a topic for another day. Overall, Adam and the White Fang are a mess, and I truly believe that the show will do much better now that he's dead. Despite how intriguing he was in the Black trailer, despite how vicious he seemed at Beacon, Adam's biggest contribution to the series was ultimately just one long-winded distraction. Alrighty, everyone. I really hope you liked that video. I've been looking forward to doing this villain.
Wow. It's hard to disagree with a lot of that.
Yeah, except for I disagree with her overall premise. I don't think bad guys need to be developed like that. Think of who is the most iconic villain of all times.
Darth Vader.
He didn't get any development until the third movie. Well, the end of the second movie, one key piece of information. End of the third movie, one key scene.
Well,
that's it, and he's still the most iconic villain of all time. You don't have to have tons of backstory and tons of character development in order to be a cool antagonist for the story.
No, but backstory can elevate a villain. You know what I mean? Because
if you don't create a good enough villain, if Adam had never got all of the backstory he did in Volume 4, I think it was, if nothing had happened in Volume 4 and 5 with Adam, and you had skipped from 3 to 6, he would still be an awesome villain. But they ruined him with how kind of short-sighted and then easily beaten he was in those two volumes. Once you got past, I mean, if you skip all of that, he would still be a pretty cool villain.
I agree to a point. I feel like he doesn't need the development that you would want to see out of a protagonist, right? Like, you don't need to know his life story and all that.
I don't need to know why he joined the White Fang.
Right.
I can infer it.
But I would like to know, like, what's his drive to do these things. Like,
you kind of get that. You have he is the whole White Fang at 11.
Yeah.
They're all, the militant
but
version of White Fang who hates them.
what happened to him that made him want to be that 11?
You don't necessarily need to know that.
I do. Like, his whole thing, like, the whole thing with the White Fang, I 100% agree, is that, they're treated like crap. They're the parallel to racism in our, in our day and age. So, like, I want to know, what terrible thing happened to him that he was like, you know what, this is not right. I'm going to.
That scar's all you need, really. If you would have shown it earlier.
I agree.
I mean,
but they should have shown that earlier for that to be a thing.
Yeah, in that one scene, showing out that the She Dust Company brand on his face.
Yeah, that would have been
all the backstory you need for his motivation.
See, and that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I didn't need. That was fine. In my opinion, it was fine where it was revealed. You can give the bad guy their motivation at the end of their arc, and I'm fine with that.
Too. Yeah.
But I think the White Fang as a whole should have been fleshed out more. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, although they're not, she makes a good point. They're not the main portion. They're not the main part.
That's
of
the point. They were a distraction.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, pretty much the.
They felt like, why would you even build them if you're not going to use them? Like, they're just a mob of people to throw whenever you need an army.
They're a useful stepping stone of.
They would have been a useful stepping stone. I agree. Leveling up the bad guy is important in the story. I get that. If they would have had a conclusion, a satisfying conclusion, right? The whole,
I think this. Well, I don't know how satisfying it is. Their conclusion was that the portion of the White Fang or the Faunus population who want peace overcame those who didn't.
Are going to go,
So that was the conclusion.
And
Whether you think that's satisfying or not.
If you're not going to get into the backstory, if you're not going to get into how, the sympathy for Adam, then he needs to remain Darth Vader. He needs to remain the relentless.
And
that's why
until the end, where you overcome him.
That's why the end of Volume 5, I guess it was so bad for his character.
For sure.
Everything up to that point, killing Sienna, all of that stuff was fine. I disagree with her with the fact that his infrequent appearances damaged his character. I don't think they necessarily did, because that is a subplot, not the main plot. Right. I'm fine with it being in the background. And the White Fang really were, we need bad guys in the city.
Yeah.
You can't be grim.
Their problem was
So
their story got drug out through 2 seasons instead of finishing up in 1. So it was just,
Yeah, the entire handling of seasons 4 and 5 really kind of harmed a lot of the development of the bad guys more in general.
I would argue also, Blake, like, having him be beaten
her being
so
separated.
easily, like that time where she just like hits him in the back and then he's gone, like he runs away.
Yeah.
It belittles her actual defeat of him.
Right.
Like, he was so easy to destroy the first time. Now I'm going to actually destroy him the second time, and it didn't mean anything.
They handled the execution badly. That I was fine with her standing up to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I understood why he ran away, but it was that just getting
He should have been drugged
Yeah.
away by 2 of his lieutenants.
Something like that.
Something
yeah.
like that. He should have tried to get like
or gotten shot.
or gotten
by the
shot
guard
or something. Yeah, something
Right.
forced him to retreat.
force him to retreat. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. They mishandled that, but
Yeah.
I don't agree with a lot of what she said as far as
Right.
all of the extra stuff.
Right.
And again, he's not Darth Vader
Right.
in the
No,
story.
no.
He's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything. He's really cool.
Really cool concept.
And
that
this
didn't go
is,
anywhere.
he got swallowed by the
Yeah.
Sarlacc before he could do anything cool.
Right.
Exactly. That's good comparison
Yeah.
right there.
I think
So-
either way. Like, I think if they would have done it like Darth Vader, or if they would have developed him more one way or another.
Yeah, they had to go one way or the other. They couldn't. They
But
had to
tried
ask
to
both.
toe a line.
Honestly,
yeah.
if they changed the one season, that one thing in season 5, if
Yeah.
they had handled that differently, I'd
I think-
still be fine with him
I think
as
so
a
as
character.
well.
And I think his arc would have been fine,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
As it is, I agree with her. I'm glad he's gone.
I agree.
Oh yeah, no, he needed to end sooner than later. He
Yeah.
couldn't go all the way to the end
Yeah.
because he's not the main villain.
But
I'm curious to see what the rest of these are like.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
because she seems to suggest that she doesn't like any of the other villains, and I think, spoiler alert here, I think Cinder has been handled perfectly. I don't want to know her back. I don't want to know what motivates her to sell out the world until the end.
Yeah.
She's just, there's a reason she's doing what she's doing, and I'm fine finding that out at the very end of things.
Right.
Whatever her end wherever her end comes,
Yeah.
because she's gonna have to fall before.
This is
Salem
gonna be
does
curious now. I
every
do
scene.
definitely want to check out the rest of the
Yeah.
series. So.
I don't know. I'm curious as well because a lot of these things I don't really have a developed opinion of. So it's interesting to hear other people's opinion and be like, yeah, I agree with that, or not really.
Yeah, and I mean, villains have to be handled differently in a series than they can be in movies.
Yeah.
And we almost get too much from the villain's perspective, I think.
I think that's your how you like your villains though,
Yeah.
because I love knowing my villain's story. I mean, we've talked
I know.
about you prefer not to know. You want them to be the big scary big guy in the background in the
Yeah.
shadows.
Well, I
whereas
prefer-
I want to know the realistic aspect.
want
I
things-
prefer some of them that way. The big scary ones, like Salem being mysterious in the background was
Yeah.
fine. I mean, we learned all about her story
Yeah.
this last
And that,
volume,
in
but-
my opinion, it made her intriguing.
Yeah.
yeah, but
But I don't need every villain explained
Right.
that
Sure.
way
No,
unless
that's
it adds something like that, like, ooh,
Right.
Yeah.
there was that's a huge twist,
That's
to the
fair.
plot,
Right.
kind of thing. Other than
so I liked her just scary in her background, not knowing anything about her, like what and all the speculations about her, the whole Darth Vader thing.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm curious to see. I think she's the last volume of this.
Yes.
she almost has that kind of Darth Vader reveal, like, oh,
Yeah.
we were together, and then now there's no reconciliation
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the horizon, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Versus the opposite with Luke and Vader, but
Right.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. All right, guys.
although it would be cool if there was,
There you
like
go.
at the very,
At the
they
very
get to
end.
go out together.
Oh yeah.
I
Well,
doubt
there you have it,
but it
guys.
would be cool.
No.
All right.
Tell us what you think down below. What you think, and go give Judgmental Critter some love. Check
Yeah.
out her got her Patreon up there on the screen. Check out her other videos.
Go tell her why she's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of what you thought? Tell us down below. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends about us, and if you want to support us and this channel here, you can do so by a number of ways. Doug.
There's 3 links in our description down below. 1 to our Teespring store where you can get cool shirts like this. 2 to our Amazon affiliate link. Any shopping you do from there helps us out. Or 3, check us out on Patreon.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. We're going to continue this discussion further, I'm sure. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.